I wonder how it is for cars to get out today.
Maybe worse.
Hotter, right? Because of the ice. Okay, we are on Lamed Tesama base, 39b. We got up to 39b2. Omar of Chizda. Go back to that point. Machloket Bikli. Of a Bakarka Divri Hakol Mutar. Right? The last point that we were saying is they're arguing by a utensil, by the water. If the water is found in a utensil, and let's say in a pot, that's where we say that the problem is that you can't use that water, meaning we brought a machloket regarding rinsing the body, so to speak, with rinsing your whole body, which nowadays we call it a shower. Shower is not, you're not bathing your whole body, you're rinsing your body. We brought a three-way machloket, three different positions. Can you rinse your body with water that was heated up before Shabbat? Can you rinse your body with cold water on the Shabbat, right? Of course, you can rinse your body with hot water before Shabbat. There's no question you can take a hot shower before Shabbat. The question is, can you take a hot shower on Shabbat with water that was heated up before Shabbat? Right? That's the question. And Ramea says you can't use hot water, you can't use cold water, and it's all part of the problem of people coming to use hot water on Shabbat. Therefore, in order to make sure that people won't come to use hot water on Shabbat, come to heat up hot water on Shabbat, let's see, there's a few people that are trying to get in. Good morning, Murray. Let's see if we get them in. Good morning, Mark. We'll
Good
get
morning, Rabbi.
okay, we're going to get Saf in as well as trying to get in. Okay. Okay, so we said we had, good morning, Asaf. We said there's a three-way argument with rinsing your body, meaning in other words, taking a shower nowadays with water that was heated up before Shabbat. The first position is Rameya. Rameya says you cannot use water to rinse your whole body, even though it was heated up before Shabbat. And not only that, he says he extends it even to cold water. He says you can't take a cold shower on Shabbat. You can't throw water on your body on Shabbat to rinse your whole body with the water. He's afraid that I presume he's afraid if you use cold water, you're going to use hot water. And the concern of hot water is that people will go ahead and heat up water on Shabbat. If you use hot water on Shabbat, people are not going to know that water was heated up before Shabbat. They'll think it was heated up on Shabbat. They'll think that you mixed the cold water with the hot water on the Shabbat. And they'll think if you're using that, they'll come to say that it's permitted to go ahead and take cold water and mix it with boiling hot water on Shabbat. And therefore, Rameya says you can't use cold water, hot water on Shabbat. Reb Shimon allowed. Reb Shimon said you could use hot water that was heated up before Shabbat for a shower. And Rabbi Yehuda says no. Rabbi Yehuda says he makes a distinction. Rabbi Yehuda is in between. He forbade you to use hot water, take a hot water shower on Shabbat, but he permits you to take meaning hot water that was heated up before Shabbat. He says you can't use that water on Shabbat, even though it was heated up before Shabbat. However, cold water, he permits a cold shower on Shabbat. And we're going to see the Gemara is going to say, well, stay tuned, that the law follows Rabbi Yehuda, that a hot shower is forbidden and a cold shower, a hot shower even from hot water that was heated up before Shabbat, it is forbidden. That's what the Gemara is going to say. We'll see as we get to that in the Gemara. But yesterday we got into Rav Chizda, because we just said there's three different opinions in this matter. And Rav Chizda wanted to make a distinction in where is the water that you're using for the shower? Where is the water that you're using to rinse your body with? Is it in a utensil or is it in a tub? Are you in a tub? Are you using a tub and you're rinsing your body from water that's in a tub, or you're rinsing your body with water that's in a kli, in a utensil? So Chizda originally wanted to say that the whole dispute of rinsing your body with this hot water that was heated before Shabbat is only talking about water that's in a utensil. But water that's in the ground, water that's in a tub, if it was heated up before Shabbat, he wanted to say that everybody would say water in a tub that was heated up before Shabbat, you would be able to go ahead and use that water. And what was the distinction we saw yesterday? Mark, if you recall, we were discussing this point yesterday, is that in a utensil, water in a utensil, it's clear how did the utensil, water in a pot, it only became hot from fire. Right? You have water in a pot, it's hot from fire. Didn't become hot from the sun, didn't come hot from hot springs. That's not the normal way that you have water in a pot. Water in a pot is you put the pot on fire. Now, being that that's the case, if they see you rinsing your body on Shabbat with water from
60.
water that's in a pot, what are they going to say? They're going to say that they don't know that the water was heated up before Shabbat. They're going to come to say that maybe that water was mixed on the Shabbat. It was heated on Shabbat and mixed with cold water because, let's say, like you said yesterday, water that's heated on a pot is boiling hot water. And boiling hot water, you're not going to be you're not going to rinse your body with boiling hot water. But how will you rinse your body? What would you do with boiling hot water? You would go ahead and you would mix some cold water into that boiling hot water. And if you mix the cold water into the boiling hot, a guy's taking a Friday night shower, right? So if he's taking a Friday night shower, rinsing his body with the water that's in the pot, the onlooker might think that some of that water was mixed, some cold water was mixed into that hot water on Shabbat, and people will think that there's no problem of heating up water with a derivative of fire. Meaning we established that the same way you can't cook with fire, something that was with fire, heat of a fire cannot cook something. Heat from something that was cooked from a fire, like something that was heated up from fire, you can't use that item to cook something else. Namely, a pot of water that was heated up from fire, and now a pot of boiling hot water. If you take cold water, you add to that boiling pot of hot water, you have violated the laws of Shabbat, because that original pot, that's clearly shown that you cooked the water in, and now you added cold water to that pot, that cold water becomes cooked from that hot water. But people are going to make the mistake, and they're going to look at cooking, they're going to think that you actually mix the cold water and hot water on Shabbat, and they'll think there's no problem that's not a problem. Because they'll say, that's not cooking. People don't look, they look at cooking when you put something on a fire. You put something that was on a fire, right? If you call it secondhand merchandise. Firsthand is something that's from the fire itself, and now that's how you cook the food. Cooked water from the fire. Now I cooked this other water through something that was cooked from the fire. So therefore, as a result of that, the rabbi said that you can't use the water that was that if you find water that in a utensil, even though it was heated up before Shabbat, because of this issue, people make a mistake. We're going to say that you can't. Everybody would agree. All the rabbis, even the rabbi who allowed, even Reb Shimon, who said you could rinse your body with hot water that was heated before Shabbat, is only going to allow that hot water from a tub, because hot water from a tub in the ground, a lot of times there were these hot springs. So maybe some of these bathhouses would get water from hot springs. So, so therefore, when you have something in a tub, the ground could come from other sources besides being heated from fire.
Like they would pipe it into the bathhouse from the
Yeah,
spring.
maybe they would. Yeah, maybe they would pipe it in. Perhaps you make your bathhouse in an area where there is, you got some springs down there.
Right. Oh,
You
right.
got some hot
Okay.
spring. You'll make your bathhouse where the springs will be flowing into that area underground, and then it'll be however you'll pipe it up, like you said, however it'll go through, and therefore they won't. The issue, the concern, the people saying it was heated up on Shabbat, they'll come to make a mistake to say that you could take cold water on Shabbat and put it into a kli rishon, into a container, into a tub that was hot. People won't make that mistake. Good morning, Mark. So that what do you think? Yeah, but then I need you over here. I think it's good for me to keep in shape, but standing a little bit. Okay. Um, Morning, everybody. So that's what he wanted to make a distinction between water in a ground, rinsing your body from water. No. Sorry, I'm gonna. I'm good. No,
The same seat every day.
Keith, you said the Makam Kabul. It's good. We got to fill up the room, Mark. You got to fill up the room. Can't get used to me sitting down over there. So that is what the Gemara, what that Rav Chizda is suggesting. There's more that everybody would agree that if it was heated up in a utensil, that'll be a problem. If you want to rinse your body from water from utensil, it'll be a problem. But rinsing your body from water that's in a tub, and you want to just wash your body, take a shower, or rinse to take the water from the tub and throw it on you, maybe less concern. People come to mix hot water, cold water with hot water or hot water derivative on Shabbat. So the Gemara says, say it again. Right. That they would think that this water was heated. If they see water in a utensil, right, and a pot. It's Friday night. They might say, well, maybe you heated it up Friday night. Let's say it's Friday night. They might think you heated it up Friday night, or let's say, correct myself. They're not going to think you cooked on Friday night. People know you can't cook on Shabbat, but people don't know you can't take cold water and throw into that pot of hot water. Meaning, if people see a pot of water Friday night that you are taking from that pot of water and you are throwing that water on your body, rinsing your body with that water, people might think, how are you able to go ahead and have this? Where does water come from? You actually took you heated the hot water before Shabbat, but on Shabbat itself, you took some cold water and you added the cold water to this pot of hot water. And then you went ahead and you're throwing the water on you. And people will think, I mean, right, it's common when people take showers, they throw water on themselves. There's a mixing of waters. There's a mixing of cold and hot. Because you have to heat up a certain amount of water, and then the rest you don't need everything to be hot. You can just throw three. And like you said yesterday, sometimes when you heat up water, you can't use that water for a shower. It's too hot. It's boiling hot water. Who's going to throw People take hot showers, but there's limits to how hot the water is going to be. So it's common to mix cold water into hot water. So if they see Friday night that you have a pot of water and you're taking the pot of water and you're throwing that water on you, what are they going to say? Most probably you added the water to this pot on the Shabbat itself. You added water. And why did you do that? Because people will think, I didn't cook, this cold water that I added was not,
No problem.
it's not a problem to add cold water to people think to hot water that's in a pot. Because that, which it is, because we said, not only is there biblical prohibition to cook, put this pot on a fire on Shabbat to cook water, there's biblical prohibition to take a pot that's from the fire, that Kli Rishon, that's still hot enough that so we said a Kli Sheni shouldn't be a problem to add cold water to a Kli Sheni. Even though in general we said you stay away from a Kli Sheni, because there are certain foods that do get cooked in a Kli Sheni. So a cup of tea, we since there the issue is the tea leaves. It's not water. You're not adding.
No,
Therefore,
my question. So, usual is the urn of hot water, and I use the first cup, and I put it into my second cup. It's really.
that's now you have a Kli Shlishi. Now the second cup becomes Kli Shlishi, and then you put the tea bag Kli Rishon, and then the second cup
So
is.
then I put it in.
You see, he's a big tzaddik. Take these third cup.
No.
It makes it mean I mean 4 cups. Kli Shlishi. What? Right, but that's called
Really.
right. The second cup is really the Kli Shlishi. It's called the third utensil.
Third.
Exactly. Third vessel, second cup.
Right.
Exactly. Then you could put the tea bag in.
No, not about the tea bag. If the water's very hot, it's too hot for me, can I add cold water to that?
It would seem yes, because we say water. We say even it would seem. I want to double.
Tea is easy to cook. Water's hard to cook.
Therefore, you should be able. Therefore, you should be able to add cold water to it.
So what do you mean? I thought because tea is easy to cook.
Because since tea is easy to cook,
I need it in a cup.
therefore that's why you needed the second. You needed a Kli Shlishi. But it would seem I'm going to double check. But it seems that water. You're going to remind me to double check that water is one of the things that is stated that a Kli Sheni doesn't cook water. The only thing that cooks water is the Kli Rishon. And therefore, it would seem, based on that, but I'm going to double check.
But the water does get the temperature of that cold water that I put in.
Definitely gets it, but yeah,
Up.
right, exactly. But it still seems that water needs much more than a leaf, perhaps.
Sure.
And therefore, right. So therefore, you could see why it's perhaps that we could say maybe a Kli Sheni doesn't cook water, but a Kli Sheni might cook the tea leaves. And therefore, we are required to use a Kli. Therefore, we make sure you use a Kli Shlishi when you're coming to putting the tea bag in.
Because the water temperature went down.
As a result of the second cup. Each cup, the walls of the cup bring down some temperature, and therefore.
Let's get that. But I'm still cooking the tea.
Okay, so therefore there are those that are not happy with the Kli Shlishi for tea leaves. But they still say if it's still boiling hot, they're not satisfied to say, okay, the fact that you use another cup.
Boiling hot.
But still
Very hot, the tea surely cooks.
right. So they're right, but
It comes out of the leaf into the
right,
water.
but it seems there are other opinions that say that
I mean,
right, because they're going with the fact that once it's stated, we don't consider that the cooking that is forbidden. That type of cooking is not the cooking that's forbidden if it's a Kli Shlishi cooking. So maybe we could explain it that way.
okay.
And that's why you're required to use the tea leaves for that. That way you need the second cup, Kli Shlishi, for the tea leaves.
Right.
So now it's similar to the same idea that the water that you're putting the tea leaves in it's only a derivative of fire. Yet there is an issue of cooking with a derivative of fire. That water was heated up from fire. You're not putting you're not putting the tea leaf on the fire, on the pot that's in the fire. You're putting the water into something that was heated up from fire. And that's an issue. And that's what the Gemara's concern is. People make mistakes. They understand, they see something, and they say, yeah, you know what, that guy was taking a hot shower Friday night. They don't know that the water was heated up before Shabbat. they're going to think that water, again, they're not going to know that the water was prepared. The mixing of the water was prepared before Shabbat. They're going to think that there was a mixing of the cold water during the Shabbat. Because it's going into the utensil, Kli Rishon. And therefore, and people, Sheni seems by water, we're going to double see that again. Water, Shishi for sure, no problem. But even the Sheni might not be a problem by water. Specifically, that type of food called water. For other foods, we said we don't know which foods are easy to cook in a Kli Sheni, and therefore we avoid using a Kli Sheni altogether. And generally, that's why the best thing Rabbi Feinstein told me is just use a Kli Sheni for everything, and therefore you'll avoid issues. Yes.
So this issue doesn't apply if it's from the ground.
Right. So the Gemara thought that if the Gemara on the story of Chizah is saying if you take water, if you see water that's on the ground.
Right.
Now that water on the ground, how could that water have been heated up? It could have been heated up through a fire, or it could be heated up through hot springs, right? The springs run through the ground. And therefore, if people see on Friday night, you're using this water and you're throwing this water on your body Friday night, people will say, even if you prepared it on Shabbat, what you prepare, you mix the cold with the hot, but people will only come to think you could use hot spring water. Now let's understand, hot spring water, to cook with hot spring water would be rabbinic problem, right? Why? A hot spring, let's say we're going to say the heat comes not from fire, comes from the sun, or whatever. It's not from fire. So that's a derivative. It's not a derivative of fire. We said a derivative of fire has the same status of fire itself, meaning something that was cooked from fire. If you use that to cook something else, that's a biblical prohibition, right? If I cook water with fire, then I throw cold water into that pot, biblical prohibition. Even though the pot's not on the fire, because the water was cooked from fire. I can't take hot water that was cooked from fire, and it's still in that utensil, Kli Rishon, and throw cold water into that. But something that was cooked from the sun, as metal that was cooked from the sun, and I crack an egg on that metal, that's rabbinic problem. What's the rabbinic Torah? There's no problem. We say even halacha, you could crack an egg in the sun, and the egg heats up in the sun. There's no problem. It's a fascinating halacha. But if you use the derivative of the sun, if I crack an egg on metal, that's a problem. What's the problem of cracking an egg on metal? Rabbi, if you tell me I could crack an egg on the sun, it's in front of the sun. I go outside in the sun, crack an egg in the sun. So why can't I crack an egg on metal that was heated up from the sun? Is that a good question? Mm-hmm. So what's the answer to the question? Because people don't know that metal was heated up from the sun. If people see you crack an egg on metal, they don't know. Was that metal heated up from what? From a fire or from sun? Morning Morris. Because they don't know, the rabbi said, and they might think people might come to say that it was heated up from fire, and people might come to say that you could use a derivative of fire for cooking. Right. So very good. Good morning, Morris. So when it comes to a derivative of a fire,
is the hot earth that heats the water considered the same as the sun? Because the earth is like not fire, but there's hot rock, lava or heat underground that heats the water. It's not.
But it's not. Let's say it's not fire. We don't look at it as if it's not fire.
The sun's not.
Right. The sun
is it like the sun?
Right. So again, remember, Mark, something we make there's a rabbinic prohibition on something that was heated from the sun. Why? Because an item that's heated from the sun, let me clarify what I mean to say. A derivative of the sun, not that you're cooking with the sun itself.
If the water in the vessel is heated in
So water in the vessel heated in the sun. Right. Now I'm gonna go ahead and I want to go.
same water as hot spring water?
Okay, so water in a vessel. So if that water was heated by the sun,
Yeah.
and it's obvious, you see that water, the water, you took water, and now this water was heated outside. It's obvious to everybody. So so then
My question is, water.
so now you're talking about
hot spring
so
and
hot.
hot water equal in
Okay, so
every
right,
house.
so very good. So the hot spring, it should be if you sing if you have water in a hot spring, it should be considered a derivative. Now that water itself, let's understand that water is the hot spring water. How do we classify hot spring water? So we're saying hot spring water was heated up in the sun.
No,
How is it? What
hot spring water is heated underground.
underground? But maybe, but it's not a derivative of.
Heat source.
But the heat source is not fire. Let's say it's not fire from. It's not a fire heat source, right? To go where is it's not a fire. It's some other. We have fire,
From surrounding.
but that's not fire.
Chambers in volcanic areas. So it's like lava on the ground.
So is that a fire?
Is lava fire? I think so, actually. Hot rocks heated in earth, internal heat.
But
That's where the heat comes, that's where the hot spring water comes from. Water that's near the lava.
But are those like natural fires? Is that in the category of sun, or is that in the category of like
My question.
like a third
My
category?
question to him, are we treating the
Yeah.
water from a hot spring equal to a tub that's outside that the sun heats? It's not fire, sun's not fire, not category, sun is fire. Is it lava the same as the sun?
Right. So let's.
So therefore, lava is the same as the sun, hot spring water would be the same as water that's being
Right.
heated by the sun.
Right.
That's my question.
Is it really about like sun versus fire, or is it about natural versus man-made? Because like, yeah, the lava is fire.
Right. So it seems like till now the Gemara said that the Gemara was discussing, let's say, the springs of Tiberia. Let's use something that we have a precedent, right?
Right.
These are hot springs of Tiberia.
Right.
So the Gemara said the hot springs of Tiberia. There's two opinions. What's the source of the heat of the hot springs of Tiberia?
I'm gonna ask ChatGPT.
So I'll tell you. You can ask the Gemara, Mark.
Okay.
One source, the Gemara says, it's on the entranceway of Gehenna.
Oh my
I
God.
feel like that. And everybody likes the hot springs of Tiberia, but I maybe based on that opinion in the Gemara, I don't know if you want to, unless people want to feel a little bit Gehenna, so therefore it gives them a little amuna, it helps their amuna Gehenna if they recognize that they feel this hot water, and it's very smelly water, as you know, the hot springs of Tiberia. If you ever been by the hot springs of Tiberia, it smells. The water smells putrid type of water. I mean, I remember I was once in Tiberia, and right outside, like wherever it was, the spa or whatever it was, they have like the fountains, and you see the water. You put your hand in, it's hot. It's a natural spring, but it doesn't. And our Gemara said that's why they would run the cold water pipe through that because that water was not good water. It's Gehenna more according to that opinion, right? But without the Gemara Mark saying that water is without that opinion, and also I wanted to say we see from the Gemara that Gehenna is real fire, because the Gemara says that Tiberia, the one opinion in the Gemara, and therefore therefore the Gemara says the hot springs of Tiberia, according to one opinion, is called what? Not from lava.
According to this, geothermal heat is not an active recent magma. Very notably, Hamat Tiberius are heated by a combination of the Dead Sea fault system and Earth's natural
the Earth's natural heat, that doesn't sound like fire to me. Right, so maybe the Earth's natural heat might be more the sun. We classified Tveria in the category of non-fire. Unless you come on to the opinion of the Gemara that it's on the entrance of Gehenna, it's non-fire. So based on that, Mark, I want to say that all springs should be like the Tveria spring. And all springs are non-fire. So you have to categorize, and it's a non.
Back to my question.
So what now? So let's identify. Once it's not a fire, then its status is it was heated from the sun. Now, therefore, if that water, good morning, was heated from the sun, we say, I can't take that water of Tveria that was heated from the sun and take cold water and put it into that water. Why not? Why not? Because when you take that water and they mix and they see this water, they don't know that this cold water you put into this hot water came where it came from. They might think that water that you mixed it in was heated from fire. And they might come to think that you could cook cold water with a derivative of fire. When you crack an egg open in the sun, everybody sees you crack the egg in the sun. There's no other way that this egg became hot. The only way this egg became hot was because you cracked it in the sun. Good morning. Because you cracked it in the sun. So everybody, it's the sun that cooked the egg. The sun that cooked the egg. No one's you could do that. That's not a problem. No one. That's not cooking. It's not a cooking problem. That's an egg. That's sun. Sun is not fire. But when you go ahead and you take water that was cooked from the sun, and then you go ahead and you take some other cold water, and now you take cold water. Adam brings in some water that was cooked from the sun, and then he brings it to the table. And if a person goes in and he picks a I put cold water in that, and now that cold water becomes hot. The onlooker says, they don't know how where the source of that it came from a spring. They'll think that water that Adam brought into the table came from a fire. And now the rabbi put cold water into that hot water, and they'll think you could go ahead.
So you're saying you're not allowed to use that water?
Right, you can't cook with a derivative of the sun on Shabbat. You could cook with the sun itself on Shabbat. Derivative of the sun, people.
That piece of metal
That's right. So that metal, if now there was a metal.
Piece of metal outside gets hot from the sun. I
Can't put egg on it. Because
on what? Where am I putting egg?
I have a paper plate. I'm outside. I want to go ahead and I want to crack an egg on a paper plate outside. Allowed. No problem. Metal, no. Because people will make a mistake. How would the metal get? I come outside. I see Morris cracking an egg on a hot metal. I could say, hey, maybe Morris heated up that metal. Possibly he heated that metal, and now he holds because but heated up with fire. But people don't know what metal, how the metal got hot. You see that? Yes. Right. So it should be once it's in a clean.
Allowed to now add cold water.
Right. So now the hot spring. Right. Your question is once the hot spring went into a kli sheni, so then it shouldn't be a problem of cooking. So their question is what would be the case of? Okay. So now, if let's say very good, very good. But let's say, like we said, the hot springs could run on the ground. And now it's in this tub. It's on the ground. And now if I would add cold water to that hot spring, people do that it's not a cliche need. Right. Right, so then that should be already, that should be fine.
Because I brought it to-
Right, right, right.
No one could see me bathe.
Right, but you could,
Grab.
but you could have, the spring, springs could be in your house, springs could be running through your house, and that will be the issue.
The bucket, bring it inside, I can add cold water.
Right, that's
And
it.
bathe.
Bathing, and we're getting, taking that water, the Gemara, at least the Gemara is saying that we're not going to be, at least that we're not going to be so concerned if the water was, let's see the language of the Gemara, right? If it was in right, the Gemara is saying, even though but you know what, there is a problem, Mark. If again, if it was on the ground, I can't add cold water.
Slowly.
Why not? Because people don't know what the source of that heat was. But if it was, I removed it from the ground. Now it's and now that shouldn't be a problem. You know, the question is, would anybody make any mistake? That would be, would there be a mistake that people might make? That's something we have to think about. But that's what the Gemara is saying at this point, that there's less of a problem, less of a mistake of water on the ground. Because even if you think that the guy, even if you think the guy did it on Shabbat with this water, that he actually heated the cold water, mixed the cold water, hot water, but since it's from the groundwater, from the springs, it wouldn't be a biblical problem. So therefore, we're not so concerned that if people make that mistake. But we're concerned that they'll make a mistake if you mix it in the utensil. If people think you could mix cold water in hot water that was actually cooked from a fire, a derivative, that's of greater concern. So that's what the Gemara is saying. They're only arguing at this point. The Gemara is thinking only arguing the water was mixed in a utensil. Therefore, if you mix in a utensil, people might come to make a mistake and think you could mix cold water and hot water actually on Shabbat in a utensil. And therefore, the rabbis would say, everybody would agree, well, that's where there would be an argument in the Gemara. But when it was in a tub, where it's common that it's a derivative of hot springs, will be less concerned, because people, even if they make a mistake and think you can actually mix cold water with spring water, that would be less of a problem than mixing cold water with.
Because they would not think that was heated fire.
Right, exactly. Okay, I don't want to.
Adam?
Okay, we need a little bit. Look it over a little bit, everybody. But it's getting clearer today. Much clearer, I think, today than yesterday. Okay, have a great day, everybody.